Hey everyone, and welcome. Sooner or later, every data science team hits the same wall. You've built this incredible machine learning model, but now you got to get it out of the notebook and into the real world on Azure. That's the real challenge, right? And today, we are going to solve it.
You've done all the hard work, right? You've wrangled the data, you've engineered the features, you've trained a model that's ready to deliver some serious value. But now you're facing that classic last-mile problem in MLOps. How do you actually serve it? How do you transform that model into a reliable, scalable API that your apps and, more importantly, your users can actually count on?
Well, when it comes to Azure, you've got options. A lot of them. Today, we're going to zero in on the four main contenders for this job. Think of it like this. They all have the same goal, but each one is built for a totally different kind of fight. Let's meet them.
First up, we've got Azure Machine Learning Endpoints. Now, this is your purpose-built native solution. The Azure ML team designed this thing from the ground up specifically for serving models. It's got all the MLOps goodies like monitoring, versioning, safe rollouts, all baked right in. It's the specialist.
Next, entering the ring is the heavyweight champion, Azure Kubernetes Service, or AKS. Okay, if AML Endpoints is a specialized tool, AKS is the entire, fully customizable factory. It gives you absolute maximum power and flexibility. You can build literally anything you want. It's perfect if you need to weave your model into a complex web of microservices or if you have super specific security and networking rules. But all that power comes with a pretty steep learning curve. Then there's Azure App Service. This is the get-it-done, no-fuss option. You know, if your model is just one piece of a bigger web application, say a Flask or a Fast API app, App Service lets you get it deployed fast. You don't have to worry about servers or infrastructure. It is all about simplicity and speed to market. And finally, we have Azure Functions. This is our serverless specialist. Think of it less like a factory and more like a high-precision scalpel. It is absolutely perfect for when you need to run an inference based on a specific event, like say a new photo lands in a storage account. It is unbelievably cost-effective, especially for workloads that don't run all the time.
Okay, so we've met our four contenders. Now, it's time to put them through their paces in what I like to call the deployment gauntlet. How hard is it, really, to get our model from our laptop into the cloud using each of these platforms? Let's find out.
All right, this table right here, this is where things start to get really clear. Just look at the top and bottom. You've got Azure Functions and App Service. They are all about speed. You don't need to be a DevOps wizard, and you can get deployed incredibly fast. Now look at the other end of the spectrum, AKS. This one demands a high level of skill. You got to be comfortable with containers, with complex YAML files. The payoff? You get total granular control over every single detail. And smack dab in the middle is Azure ML Endpoints, which kind of strikes that perfect balance. It's a bit more involved than App Service, sure, but it hides all the raw, gnarly complexity of Kubernetes, giving you an experience that's laser-focused on machine learning.
And this slide just nails that core trade-off. It really boils down to this. What are you optimizing for? Are you trying to move fast and value simplicity above all else? Well, then App Service and Functions are going to be your best friends. Or are you building a massive, mission-critical MLOps system where you absolutely need that fine-grained control that only something like AKS can give you? See, there's no single right answer here, only what's right for your team and your project.
Now, let's talk about how the pros do it in the real world. In a serious production environment, you don't just push a new model out there and cross your fingers. That is a recipe for a very bad day. Instead, you use strategies like canary deployments to lower your risk. And this is where platforms like Azure ML Endpoints and AKS just leap ahead of the pack. They have traffic splitting built right in, which makes it super easy to roll out a new model to, say, just 10% of your users. Watch how it performs, and then roll it back instantly if anything looks weird. Trying to build all that logic yourself on a simpler platform? That's a huge engineering project all on its own.
Okay, so our model is deployed. Great. But now we need it to actually perform. Can it handle the pressure? Let's check out how these services stack up on three things that really matter: how they scale, how much they cost, and how fast they respond.
The real story on this slide is that cost model column. It's so important. With AKS and App Service, you're usually paying for virtual machines to be on and waiting 24/7. That's a reserved model. It gives you super low, predictable latency, which is great, but it can get pricey if your traffic comes in bursts. On the flip side, you've got Azure Functions, which runs on a consumption model. You literally only pay for the compute you use, down to the millisecond. It's unbelievably cheap for sporadic jobs, but it does come with that infamous cold start. The first request after a quiet period might be a bit slower. And Azure ML Endpoints, it brilliantly gives you both options, so you can pick the right cost model for your specific needs.
This chart just distills that whole idea down perfectly. With AKS, you're paying a premium to have this powerful, always-on cluster that gives you ultimate control and rock-solid performance. With Azure Functions, you're all in on the serverless stream for maximum cost savings, but you accept that you're giving up some control and might see some variability in latency.
And hey, let's not forget about keeping an eye on things once they're live. The really good news here is that no matter which platform you pick, you're inside the Azure ecosystem. All of them plug right into tools like Application Insights, giving you incredible metrics and logs to figure out what's going on. And even better, you can stick Azure API management out in front of any of these services to act as a single unified gateway for authentication, security, rate limiting, the whole shebang. You are never flying blind.
All right, we have run our contenders through the gauntlet. We've looked at deployment, at scaling, at cost, at monitoring. Now for the moment of truth. Let's take everything we've learned and boil it down into a simple guide to help you make the right call for your project.
But before we get to that guide, I really want this to sink in. There is no single best service for model serving on Azure. It just doesn't exist. The most powerful platform, AKS, might be complete overkill for a simple project, and the simplest platform might totally fail to meet the needs of a big enterprise system. It is all about finding the best fit for the job at hand.
And here it is, your cheat sheet. If you're building a dedicated, real-time API that needs all those MLOps features, you should start with Azure ML Endpoints. It's literally built for that. If your model only needs to run when something happens, like a new file gets uploaded, then just use Azure Functions. It's the perfect, cheapest tool for that job. If your model is just a small feature inside a bigger website, keep it simple and put it right there with your app on Azure App Service. And finally, if you're on a dedicated MLOps team that manages a whole fleet of complex models with crazy security needs, then yeah, you're going to need the raw power and control of AKS.
So there you have it. We've walked through the entire Azure model serving landscape, from the simplest option to the most powerful. I hope you now have a really clear framework for making your choice. But just remember, picking the platform, that's only half the battle. Which leads us to the next absolutely critical question. Is the model itself actually ready for the pressures of production? That's a whole other can of worms, and one we'll dig into next time. Thanks for joining me.